So this is a project that we have where we're trying to capitalize on a one-of-a-kind archive of soils. We have soils from the marrow plots, so 1904 to present. That's pretty cool. That's the second oldest continuous experiment in the world, the marrow plots, right north of me about half a mile. And we have the soils beginning in 1904. Now the oldest in the world is in the UK. They have about 40 years on us. But what they don't have that we do have, and I think that Illinois is unique in this respect, we have all of the original soils that were used to map the state's soils. This is before NRCS was mapping. This is county level maps, beginning with Adams County in 1899. This is before soil science was even a science. So someone had the foresight to store all these soil samples, and we rediscovered them. They were discovered by Dr. Ted Peck in the late 90s. He unfortunately passed early, and it was kind of forgotten about. And so our lab, with NREC support and other support from Farm Bureau, we've been able to curate the collection, and we've now identified 400 priority locations where we know exactly where, within about 50 to 100 yards, where someone going back as far as 1899 took a soil sample. And they did what we call ped-on descriptions. A ped-on is simply a 3-foot depth of soil. It's the full profile, so it's not just the topsoil. And this is important because since we know where these soils were taken, we can go back, resample that same site, and now we can go back in time progressively to even 1899 and understand how have soils changed. And not just soils, but things like carbon stocks. And this would integrate well with the ISA project that we have on carbon credits. So I think that by virtue of being able to resample these locations, we can even further leverage this archive and understand how our state's natural resource base that is pivotal to ag has been transformed. Maybe it hasn't, maybe it has. We'd like to know how it has, if so. For some background, we've spent a lot of money and 2 years of a few full-time researchers going through 8,000 jars, one by one, digitizing the database, which we will make publicly accessible because this is taxpayer funded, going back to 1899. And now we know the locations of these samples, where they were taken. What we need next is permission. This is private land. We want to respect that. And so we are looking for landowners and farmers, if they know of a site that's in their area or if they themselves farm that ground. We produced a map of these locations that we'd like to sample if possible. So if folks are able to check out the map and identify, it's a Google Maps interface. You can scroll in down to very fine scale. If you see a site that you know who farms, or if you yourself farm, we'd much appreciate a lead and potentially permission to go out there and sample. Pretty low impact sampling, we're talking a small core of soil, but we could do really the first of its kind in the world research for our state with that kind of sampling access. I just see this as we're continuing the legacy of people that began doing soil and ag research at the U of I in 1899 and onwards. It's kind of cool that we can continue that effort. Not many places in the world, much less the US, can say that they have a 1.2 century and counting effort. We would derive insights to soil fertility that would be unmatched in the world. It would position our state as a leader in soil science research. And more concretely, for producers in our state, we would be able to understand things like legacy phosphorus, soil carbon changes, the signature of sulfur deposition before the Clean Air Act. So there's very much applied questions for crop production that we can uniquely answer with this archive. In terms of conservation, we've got legacy phosphorus as well as erosion. We can quantify erosional rates. I mean, there's basically any question you have about soils over long-term scales, we can answer. That doesn't happen. I mean, it's wild to have 120 years of going back in time. We did a recent study about what's the oldest, or what is the age of these archived soils around the world in different collections. And on average, they're about 37 years old. We have 120 years at U of I. And we can make that more powerful by resampling those sites with your help.